what you've been doing to this point is research, and I would label it as that. Ask Dr. Gray Premed Q&A, sponsored by Blueprint MCAT. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to be speaking to another Gator, so it'll be just the brightest of minds communicating today. What can I help you with?
So I've been reading your book, and I saw that you mentioned in there that
which book?
The newest one, The Guide to the Medical School Application.
Yes.
And I saw that you mentioned just being a club member doesn't have a ton of impact that needs to be discussed, similar to what you say about shadowing.
Yep.
So I was just wondering, do you recommend we still list those if we have the room to, or just don't include them at all? Or
yeah, I think if you have the room to, go ahead. It's not going to hurt you. It just isn't going to help you much to say, "Ooh, I was a member of this club and this club and this club." Great. Right. Okay. So you showed up to meetings, you got your free pizza, whatever that looked like, right? If you can combine some things, if you need the space, potentially, if you were just a quote unquote member of multiple clubs, you can potentially combine those. There are lots of things that you can do, lots of freedom to have with that activity section.
So kind of following up to that then, what would your opinion be on listing like an honor society? Would you do that as an extracurricular or just like a honor award recognition? Would you just not include it at all if it's just like, I was an engineering honor society, so it just had to be, I was invited because of grades and they can see my grades. So I don't know if it really means a lot, you know?
Yeah. Again, that's one of those, not a ton of impact. And it's kind of like putting on there that you got Dean's List, which is like, great. That I would still put it on there, right? And I would put it under honors, awards, recognitions. That's where most students will list. I got Dean's List these times, and I was recognized and got Honor Society for my engineering or whatever. You can just list all of those. Again, at the end of the day, the question is, what is the impact? What can you tell about yourself in the activities description that will help you or help the admissions committee member, the reviewer, understand a little bit more about you? And that kind of stuff is just, it's something that happens, that was given to you because you were a great student, which is reflected in your grades. And so it's really not adding a ton. And so just listing them in one activity section under honors, awards, recognitions is perfectly fine.
And then, so I'll do that. And then there were some mandatory community service, like socials, things you had to do to get initiated. So should I try to estimate an hour for that, or should I just leave it at 0, do you think?
You can estimate hours, and potentially because it was more than just a recognition and you got a piece of paper for it or whatever, because there was community service and stuff that was associated with it, that's potentially a reason to list it separately, because you can potentially talk about the impact through the community service, things that you did there. Again, check in with yourself. Was it really impactful, or did you just kind of show up and put in the hours? If not, maybe not something great to talk about in an application, because everything is fair game on that application. And if you're sitting down in an interview with someone and they go, "Oh, tell me about this community service you did for your honor society," and you're like, "Oh crap, like I didn't really do much. I showed up and ladled some soup," right? I don't know. Then maybe that's not a position you want to be put in. Then just leave it off. It's not, again, it's not going to add a ton, so you don't need to specifically call it out. I think so many students are worried that if they don't list everything exactly how they did it, then somebody's going to say, "Hey, you didn't list this one community service thing you did with the Honor Society. You're lying to us. What else are you lying about?" And it's just like, that's not the whole point of the activity section. The activity section is kind of, who are you? What have you been doing with your time? And if there's something that you're like, I did it, I spent some time with it, but it wasn't impactful for me. I don't think I really impacted anybody doing it. I just was kind of checking the box in that moment. And then don't put it. It's fine.
Thank you for that insight. That was helpful.
Yeah.
And then also I'm on my activities, so all my questions are kind of activities related.
Yep.
So freshmen summer after freshman year, I was a nanny for a family, and it wasn't super impactful or anything, but that is what I was doing that summer. So should I include that just so they kind of have the timeline of why I wasn't doing anything else that summer, or they're not going to look that closely?
They're not going to look super close. Like, what did you do freshman summer? What did you do sophomore summer? They're not going to get that nitpicky. The question, I would challenge you, though, that it wasn't super impactful that you were a nanny for a summer. I think being a nanny is incredibly hard. Taking care of kids is incredibly hard. And I've seen some amazing nanny activity descriptions that just talk about being there for the kids and impacting the kids and being a part of their life in those short few months that I think there's some impact potentially that you could focus on. Obviously, you're not... The kid didn't grow up to be a valedictorian because of the 3 months that you spent with them, but I would challenge you, and the things that come out of that is, well, I can see that you're you're a caring and compassionate person because you were a nanny for 3 months, and the story that you tell interacting with the kid or kids or whatever it is, a lot comes out of that without you specifically saying I'm compassionate and caring.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. I feel like you're definitely right about that one. So thank you.
Yep.
I might have made a wrong decision there if I hadn't spoken to you. So, all right. And then that was most of what I had, but just something else that came to mind just now. So I have been trying to get research. I'm a biomedical engineer, so it's just kind of a big part of our program at UF, especially. But it's really competitive, obviously. And also COVID and all the labs pretty much shut down. And if you weren't already in one, it's been really hard to get in. I did start kind of like a research assistant type thing with a medical student, but we were kind of creating a project. So it was a lot of just like literature review, and we made a proposal, and now we're just waiting.
Yep.
So I haven't done any actual like lab or bench research or anything.
Guess what? That's not important. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The hours aren't a ton either. So, so I didn't know, I hope for it to continue. Like I want something to happen with the proposal and to possibly get to doing like the actual, like what you would consider like research part of it. I'm super excited about the project if it takes off, but I just don't know if it will by the time I graduate. So,
well, I'll challenge you about the quote unquote research part of it. Research at the end of the day, what research is asking questions and trying to figure out how to get answers. Right? That's what research is. And unfortunately, in the pre-med world, we say research and we think, ooh, pipettes, and I'm in a lab and I'm doing this thing, and I'm playing with mice and cutting their Achilles tendon, or whatever you're doing with mice and rats in the lab. All right, that is research, but it doesn't have to be the technical definition of research. And so, just you starting out on this project, asking questions, doing lit review, trying to figure out, have these questions been asked? What are the answers out there? How can we ask a different question in a different way to get the answers we're potentially looking for? You're already doing research. Mm-hmm. So I would 1,000% count that as research. And as you mentioned, hopefully it turns into something more. But what you've been doing to this point is research, and I would label it as that.
Yeah, because it's actually been very impactful on me, because I never really thought about the beginning stages. You know, you just kind of join a lab that's already going and someone assigns you a mentor and you just go do what you're told. But so I hadn't really thought about it from this perspective. And so it's been really interesting, but not a lot of hours and not like traditional or what I thought research should be. So, all right. And then, so should I mention in that, the proposal is under review. I hope to continue.
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
Cool. Great. That was all the questions I have for you as of right now, I think.
Awesome. How far away from applying are you? Are you applying this cycle?
This cycle. Yep.
All right. So you mentioned the application process book, my new book. It's too far away to grab. The Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Application Process. How's that book coming for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I found you a little bit later than I would have liked in my pre-med process, just like your resources and everything. I had already taken my MCAT, had already written my personal statement, and then proceeded to edit it very heavily
Yeah.
after reading some of your advice and watching and stuff. But this book has been just really helpful filling in the gaps of, like, I didn't really have a strong mentor that's gone through this recently. So just like seeing all the details and just feeling very prepared has really helped me, because I'm very much like a planner. I wanted to know, what I was going to see when the application opened.
Yep.
So it's been super helpful. Thank you so much.
Good. So when you found me, and then when you realized that I was a fellow Gator, did that just make all the difference in the world?
Oh, for sure. I knew I could trust you then.
That's awesome. Talk about the MCAT. Have you taken the MCAT yet?
Yeah, I took the MCAT last August. I studied all summer for it. Yeah, I'm taking a 5th year for my major. I kind of decided on being pre-med a little late. So that kind of gave me the opportunity to spread out the pre-med process a little bit, which was nice. So I got to take the MCAT, get it over with before I had to mess with letters of recommendation and, personal statement, whatnot.
Yeah.
But I studied all summer. I just had 3 months, but just did that all day, every day. And I was pretty happy with how it turned out. So.
Nice. What was the best piece of advice that you could give someone else for MCAT prep?
Do cars practice as often as possible. Yeah.
Lots of cars practice. Well, good. Hopefully the MCAT Cars podcast helped you there as well as the MCAT podcast that I do with Blueprint MCAT. So, well, I hope this was helpful for you. Good luck in your application cycle. Maybe we can get you on Mission Accepted in the future after all of your dreams come true and you get all of your acceptance letters and calls and emails and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.